Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Happy New Year's. This is the first episode of the new year. So I love you guys. Hope you guys had a safe and healthy one. Remember, new year, new me, bull crap. Just do better than you did last year. Guys, this is going to be an amazing episode with my friend. We're going to be talking about some amazing things. We're going to be talking about healthcare. We're going to be talking about how to take care of your own mental health as a caregiver, because I think a lot of caregivers get forgotten about. So we're going to be talking about that. And at the end, we're going to give you 3 things that you can do today to help with your own mental health. But before I get started, I want to thank our sponsors. As you can see down below, my cousin has a gas station in Bergen County here. They do great work, not cheap, but they do the job right the first time. If you're in Bergen County, check out Andrea. And the reason why I chose Andrea to be our sponsor today, because me and her are very tight cousins. She's carbo, I'm hydrate. We're carbohydrate. And both of our parents are dealing with right now. We're dealing with Alzheimer's. So we're both going through the same thing that we're going to be talking about today. That's why I chose Andrea today. So this is going to be a very heartfelt episode. There might be a couple tears shed, but we're here for you. So Rochelle, welcome to the show. We finally got together. I want to thank Laura. Laura, thank you for putting us together. I appreciate you. So how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's really wonderful to finally meet you. You were very busy, and I'm very happy to talk about this topic of mental health for caregivers.
And I love it. So my first question is because I have a traumatic brain injury, and if I don't ask the question, I forget. What is your definition of resiliency?
So resiliency to me is overcoming something extremely hard and enduring, but being able to find the joy in those moments, stringing all of those happy moments together and being able to come out the other side whole in terms of your mental health, your stress, and being able to cope with the situations. It's not the situations that break us, it is how we deal with them. And so if you can understand that the negative moments in your life are only just situational, you can find the happy moments, string those together, find joy, and that to me is resiliency.
Okay, and I love that definition because everybody has a different definition. But the reason why I wanted to have you on this show because not only have you done some amazing things, you help with St. Jude, you help a lot of people that were struggling, but you've also been through a lot of your own struggles.
Yes.
And you made your mess your message. And that's what I
Yes.
wanted to talk about today. So, if people see you today, they see your beautiful face, they see your big smile, they see your happiness, but it hasn't been all unicorns and rainbows, right?
No, it hasn't. And it's a choice. I had to make the choice to be happy and make the choice to find joy. It wasn't easy. It's been a long road. My husband is a 2-time cancer survivor. My daughter is also a cancer survivor at the same time on my husband's second cancer journey. And for her, it took 9 years to find an actual solution. So she was only 4 when her journey started, and going in and out of hospice multiple times in different facilities, you sometimes lose that hope. You sometimes lose the ability to find happiness during that. It's a real struggle to keep a family together. But when you work at it, when you work and say, today is the day I'm going to choose joy, I'm going to choose happiness, whatever happens during that day is easier to take. And so I think in looking at that caregiver journey, it's a choice. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of choices. And if you make the right choices often enough, eventually you'll come out the other side with joy, whether it is with your loved one that you're fighting for their life or not. But again, it's the choice.
All right. So then give us a quick down and dirty about who you are, where did you come from, and then we start talking about, your beautiful, your beautiful family and the struggles that you went through. So tell us
Sure.
about you.
So I am a critical care neural trauma ICU nurse of 30 years. I'm a certified legal nurse consultant. I'm a data scientist. I've been in the United States for 25 years now. I'm from Canada originally, and nursing has been a passion of mine since day one. However, what I ended up finding is that I always had that patient that had that underlying cancer diagnosis that always gummed up the work in their recovery. And earlier in the 80s and 90s, there really wasn't a lot of treatment options for oncology. And so my grandmother asked me to promise her that I would go into oncology. I didn't listen. I did everything else but that. And so when cancer decided to visit upon me, I was like, what is this? I'm a healthcare provider, and how could I not see this coming? And so when I imagine what healthcare is and now being the recipient of it, it was very different. And so I understand those struggles, and they're very real. And I wanted to make it better. So I created a cancer treatment library that houses all cancer treatments in one place where patients can find a solution and receive a list of the next steps in their journey. Often we exhaust the treatments in our hospital centers, and then we don't know where to go after that. It doesn't mean that we fail. We don't fail cancer. The treatments fail us. And so we need to find a better way or that next solution. And as you know, a lot of times it's a lot of siloed information. So I want to break down those barriers and provide knowledge, because when you have knowledge, then you can make better choices in your healthcare journey.
Now, obviously, you see me, I'm writing stuff down because I already have a whole list of stuff that I want to talk about.
Yes.
So talk to us because, I've been in the mental health space now,
Mhm.
I don't know, 12 years.
Mhm.
And until somebody close to me took their own life is when it really became real. I mean, it was real before,
Mhm.
but when it came like my one of my people that I really admire, Malcolm X said that, when the roosters came home to roost in my own backyard is when I started to think, it's not everything that I think I know. So talk to us about the first time cancer came to visit your household.
Oh my goodness. The first time it came to visit my household, my husband was diagnosed with lung cancer. At the time, there wasn't a stem cell treatment. This is back in 2007. And the current treatment that was there wasn't a lot of hope. Most of the people were dying. And so having that, he was a smoker, and I always was encouraging him to stop smoking. And so what we realized is that he went through actually 3 tumors, and the 3rd tumor is the one that found the blood supply and really took hold. And he was basically hours away from dying when we discovered that he had cancer. And fortunately, we were able to make it to the hospital and save his life. But most people don't know, they just have this cough. And so it was really devastating to me that my it's here. And what do we do next? How do we manage this? How do we go on? We had 2 very young children at the time, 2 and 4. And so we were a new family, just beginning our lives together, and now cancer is here. That's a big burden. How do we explain it to the children in a way that you understand? Now daddy has to go away, and he can't be around, his son or his daughter to play and to roughhouse like normal children do with their fathers. And how do you see that? Are you the one now standing in the way from everyone else? He came from a long history and family that smoked. And so they could no longer be around him because that was the trigger to make his cancer grow. So it was really, truly devastating on all sides. And bridging that journey and allowing the family to stay together while allowing him to heal was difficult because he had to understand that the way that they lived also impacted him and his journey. So
Okay,
it
then
was
let me ask a question real quick because
Mhm,
um, as a person that's overcome addiction, I just celebrated 35 years
mhm,
on New Year's. Actually, yesterday I served
mhm,
35 years clean and sober. It had to come to a point in my life, and it wasn't until I hit my 50s until I realized all this shit was my fault. I
yeah,
caused the problems.
yeah,
And sometimes I never really thought about the repercussions of my actions and the struggles that my wife had to go through quietly. So, was
mhm.
there ever a time where you're laying in bed and you're thinking, even though you're trying to be loving, you're trying to be caring, but was there ever a moment where you got mad and you're like, you know what? How many times did I tell you to quit smoking? And now we're in this situation.
I distinctly remember it. I distinctly remember it. I think he will too. He was saying, so at the time they changed the treatment to stem cell, and that was right at the time when he was newly diagnosed. So the struggle was, okay, you're going to have remove part of your lung. You're going to remove a lobe of your lung. This is real. It has to be done. This is the quickest, downest, dirtiest way of doing it so that it doesn't hurt you and spread anymore. It was just that much cancer he had in his body. And he didn't want to do the surgery. But on top of that, he felt that there was no need to do chemotherapy. And I knew as a scientist, as a data scientist, you must do this chemotherapy because it's the stem cell presence that causes it to spread. So we had a big argument about this as to whether he should have it or not, and which doctor he was going to listen to or not. And I'm just like, listen here, Jack. If you had stopped smoking, if I didn't have to come home and chase you into the garage and watch you throw those cigarellos and Black and Milds out into the grass, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so there is that responsibility. And my husband is not the type of person to say, I'm sorry. So it was even harder. It is even harder on that. He will show by his actions he is sorry, but his mouth will not say those words, I did this, I'm sorry. So that is a mental health journey between a husband and spouse that you have to negotiate. And it's difficult because for me, it was important for me to hear, I'm sorry. We negotiated that you did not want somebody who smoked, and I lied to you. That's heavy. But then you have to remember there's a love journey in that, and that's what brought you together. And that's why you continue to go forward together.
And and I believe that like my father passed away Valentine's Day 2 years ago
Mhm,
from pancreatic, and but something that he had, he was a man of faith,
mhm,
so it was much easier for him when he transitioned because he said, "It's okay, I'm going home."
mhm,
And my grandmother years ago, I mean, passed away, and she was not a believer, and she had a horrible passing.
mhm,
So sometimes I think faith, because he had it for he was in hospice for like 2.5 years. He wasn't going.
He
He
wasn't going
wasn't going
anywhere.
anywhere because he would wake up every day. He says, "If God wants me here, I'm going to be here." And he
Mhm,
would say, "I've been healed."
mhm.
He would have that faith. He was like, "You know what? If God wants to heal me, because even it says in the it says in the good word, that by His stripes we're healed." So
That's
he would actually claim it. He would say prayers. So I think faith plays a big part in recovery, whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, whatever. I think faith plays a big part. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree. For me, I kind of lost faith going through this journey because if you can imagine my husband having cancer twice and my daughter going through 9 years, it's a total of 20 years of cancer that I've had to deal with within my family. That will shake you to your core. However, my husband was a praying man. He was a firm believer of God. He would walk in there and say, "Give this to me. I can take it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to shake me. This is not the way I'm going out." And he would look to the left and the right and see how broken those people are. And he would be the one to encourage every single person in that room to continue on, to keep going, to have faith, to believe that tomorrow is going to come. And I do believe that it is his faith, why he was able to just quit his addiction of smoking cold turkey. He never picked it up again. And this man, to this day, and this is 20 years now, will go to every truck station, truck stop, and talk to every truck driver that he sees if they're smoking. "Hey, man, this is what happened to me. You need to give it up." And this is what he does. This is his life mission, and I support it. But it is his faith that got him through that. I absolutely believe that. Whether you believe in God or whatever that other higher power is that you believe in, or what that spirituality is, those are the things that are necessary to help you through and keep you whole and keep your mental health sane.
And something, and I wrote this down because this has been in my head for weeks now. It was
Mhm.
something that primetime Deion Sanders said. He said, "You didn't make me, so you can't break me." And for
That's
some
right.
reason, I had to put that out there. I don't know,
Yep.
um, but this is something that was
Mhm.
on my heart, so I just wanted to say that. So
Yes.
now your husband beats it the first time.
Yes.
When does cancer come visit the household again?
About five, uh, about 6 years later, during that time, about 2 years later, we had our third child. And in 2014, she woke up with the worst, just vomiting, and her pupils were dilated. She just turned 4, and we found out that she had the biggest brain tumor and wasn't even going to make it out the hospital. It took a month in the ICU. She came out and she made it to chemo. But during that time, about 2 months after that, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And so I'm dealing with a 4-year-old child with a massive brain tumor, and we need to leave Miami and go to St. Jude. And my husband has prostate cancer that is extremely aggressive and about to spread everywhere. And I had to choose who I was going to take care of. I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. I don't care how much, I don't say the word hate, but I had to choose between my child and taking her away from, I think that's about 4 states away from where I live, versus staying and helping my husband, whose tumor is about to explode out of where it was. And I had to choose my child and say, "You're the adult. You're going to have to stay with your family and take care of this because she can't take care of herself." So I packed all 3 of our children in the car, not knowing when we were going to come back, not knowing if
Okay,
I was.
so because I'm a father of 3, it's my son's 19th birthday today. So Liam, if
Happy
you're watching,
birthday.
I
Happy
love
birthday.
you, Liam. And you're two amazing men, and I have an 11-year-old daughter. But
Awesome.
I'm trying to put myself in your position. I'm trying to think, but then I think about your husband's position,
Yes,
knowing that I may never see my daughter again.
exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at it from all different perspectives.
Hmm.
And of course you made the right choice.
Hmm.
But it should be a choice that nobody should ever have to make. But what was it like? Because I'm just picturing, my daughter, my little Linda, she'll be 12 next month. Her being 4 years old, and because they really uh, they don't know what they don't know, and
Exactly.
and if they're crying, they don't know why they're crying.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
what was it like, after you getting the call, and it's nighttime, and
Hmm.
you're laying in her bed, and
Hmm.
she's and you're brushing her hair. What was that feeling like, being just you and her alone in that bed?
Oh my God. I went to the level of despair because your child is in the dawn of their life. They don't even know what life is. All they know, their whole world is mommy and daddy and brother and sister if they're there. And how do you even explain what can't you can't even explain it to them. They don't even know what it is. They just know that in this moment here, I don't feel like playing. I don't feel like running around the house. I don't feel like playing with our dog. So it's just like the weight is so heavy that you have a child that is dying, and you don't know when you take her or go whether you're coming home with your three children or not. It's completely devastating. But I had to be strong because my other two children and my husband is watching me. And everyone is turning to me saying, well, you're the healthcare professional. You should be the one to know what's going on. And I literally had no answers because outside of the fact that I understood the brain, cancer at that time was not my specialty. My specialty was critical care, and I had done what I needed to do to get her stabilized. But I had no idea the insurmountable weight that I had on me. I didn't even know how to remove it. I had no idea where to turn to. I literally had to stop working just to be
Okay,
able
so,
to
and
deal.
because I want to talk, because no matter what job you do,
Mhm.
like even with podcasting, there's
Yeah.
what everybody sees, and then
Mhm.
there's behind the camera.
Yep.
There's what's really going on, you know.
Yeah.
And my mother was a nurse for over 50 years, and there's a big behind the scenes that's going on, especially
Mhm.
with cancer,
Yep.
um, and a lot of stuff they're not telling us. A
Mhm.
lot of stuff they don't tell you. I
Yes.
have it written down here because I was in the health and fitness industry for 35 years.
Mhm.
And obviously, I'm not the healthiest right now. But I always told people that, not all cancers, but a lot of cancers, sugar feeds cancer. And a
Yes.
lot of people don't realize that, I mean, like I said, not all of them, but a lot
Mhm.
of people that I've talked to and I've had on the show, if a lot of people that are listening to this, if you're eating a lot of sugar and if you have cancer cells in your body, it's feeding on these cancer cells. And you never hear anybody they're always talking about the chemo, they're always talking about this or that, but they're never talking about, trying to stay healthy to prevent it from the long term.
That is true. And I think what I learned going through this journey is that where we started at the beginning is not where you are at the end of it. That's the major takeaway. Your diet will change depending on what type of cancer you have, what type of chemo, or what type of treatment you use now. Within the last 10 years, the treatments have exploded now where we're not just looking at the drug that you're putting into and how it's feeding you. We're looking at your actual DNA, the DNA of the tumor itself. And so, depending on where that tumor exists, is how it is fed. The food for the brain is sugar, is glucose. That's the only thing. That's all it wants, sugar and oxygen. And so, to that light, I can somewhat agree that sugar does have some influence on it. And I have to be careful in what I'm saying.
Of course, yeah.
So, if
Yeah.
your body in general needs sugar, to live, and you have a tumor that doesn't know how to turn itself off, then there is an influence on what you intake and ingest into your body that will make these tumors grow more or can actually turn them off. So that's a whole nutritional component that they talk about, but it does have to go hand in hand with the treatment. Like we can talk about things to prevent cancer from coming to you, but there are certain factors within our genes that we have a predisposition to having cancer. So I don't want to give the impression that nutrition alone can cure you, and that chemotherapy or any one of these remedies and therapeutics that we have can also cure you in isolation. I think you have to come together in a way that works through science and data that will actually make the difference in your life. And I think that's the most way
Yeah.
to say it. Mhm.
And I get, because like I said, I was in the health fitness industry
Mhm.
for over 35 years. And I've
Mhm.
had a lot of friends that come from uh, Asia, like
Yeah. Mhm.
India,
Mhm.
and they have a very low rate of cancer.
Mm.
And for me, I think a lot of it is, and this is just me and not talking, you don't have
Mhm.
the answer, but I think a lot of it is because they eat a lot of turmeric, they eat a lot of anti-inflammatories, and they don't eat a lot of sugar there.
Mhm.
But when they come here, they get diabetes like that because they just start eating the American diet. But I think
Mhm.
inflammation is probably one of the worst things for your body. I take turmeric every single day, and I
Mhm.
take milk thistle for my liver every day. I'm a big supplement guy.
Mhm.
So I think that if you try, I mean, it's not fail proof, but if you try to head stuff off at the pass, you have a better chance of, even if you get it, if you're healthy, you have a better chance of surviving it because you don't have those comorbidity things, right?
Yeah, I agree. I do believe that there is a role in adjunct therapy between Eastern and Western medicine, and that is something I practice throughout both my husband's and my daughter's journey. And I think that that also helped to make a difference in their overall survivorship. Um, I also have come to understand that there are certain types of cancers that regionally are prevalent in certain
Yeah.
societies, in certain countries that we don't actually hear about
Mhm.
because we're not thinking in that way. We're thinking in North America, these are the cancers that we are mostly focused on. But if
Mhm.
you look more worldwide or globally, you will find cancer in
Yeah.
all of these places. It's just that the way that they treat it or their approach to it is very different than ours. And they use adjunctive therapy like mushrooms or turmeric or look at the inflammation spectrum. I also believe that inflammation is regionally dependent and it was built in the cake of our DNA to protect us. For example, if you come from a desert climate historically and your ancestors are from there, you use inflammation to store water because water is not prevalent for you there. But then you come to North America where water is prevalent. Now your gene doesn't know how to turn that
Yeah.
water consumption off. And
Mhm.
so it manifests itself as inflammation. And then we take a drug that causes us to swell, that causes inflammation. So it adds insult to injury. And that's where we get hurt in not understanding how the drugs express ourselves between all of us. So a blood pressure drug will express itself different in you
Mhm.
than it would in me. And it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the level of melanin in our skin. We're all
Yeah.
part of the human race. It's
Yeah.
just how our gene expression is. And I think that as we move forward in understanding what the human genome is, this is why I talk about donating your tumors, donating your tissues when you're ill. donate that to science so that we can better understand it, so that we can save all of us together. There is a significant benefit to adjunctive therapy when used together in a scientific way.
Like my dad, he came from Palermo, Italy, where
Hmm.
everything they would go down to the water, they would catch the fish, they'd bring it home, and they would cook it.
It's fresh.
And but they cooked with a lot of butter, they cooked with a lot of margarine.
Hmm.
Even a lot of European countries, they even though everything they say we're not supposed to eat, they ate and they had much less heart problems
Yes.
than we did. So I think like you're saying, if you bring that same person to America and they're
Mm-hmm.
eating fresh fish every day and fresh fruit, you bring them to New York City, they start eating Pop Tarts and hot dogs. They're going to have the same problems we got. So
That's right.
I totally agree with that. So let's get back to your beautiful family and your beautiful daughter.
Hmm.
So you get to St. Jude's,
Hmm.
and because sometimes we feel, even like me, I'm a suicide survivor. Um, Sometimes we feel that we're all alone,
Hmm.
but then you get to St. Jude's and you see everybody that's in the same boat.
Yes.
Everybody, you might be paddling in the front or the back, but everybody's in the same boat. Did it make you feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this? Because your husband was taking care of himself, trying to get healthy. Here you are with three kids. So did St. Jude's open you warmly? And how does that whole thing work with St. Jude's? Because I always, we talked before the show, I raised thousands of dollars for St. Jude's when I was with GNC. So give us the quick down and dirty about St. Jude's, and then tell us what it was like your first day getting there.
Sure. Everything, and I mean everything that they say on those commercials for St. Jude's is true, and then some. They give a flight for you and the patient to go, but I had my children, and I had to bring them with me because they were 12 and 10, and so they couldn't stay alone with dad at that situation, so they had to come with me. So I had to drive, and so they paid the fuel, they paid the mileage, and they paid wear and tear. They also paid a mortgage to make sure that when I came there, I wasn't worried about the stress of what I was leaving behind. While I was there, they took care of everything. They made sure we had 3 square meals a day, um, and a place to stay. Having that relief of no matter what, I'm just here to focus on my child. And that's what they tell you. When you come here, all we want you to do is focus on loving your child through this journey. We'll take care of everything else. They have every specialty that you can think of in that hospital. It's a warm place to come. From the person who sweeps the floor to the person who greets you at the door, the person who takes your information, everyone comes with a heart of benevolence. They want to help. They want to make your day happier. They want to make these moments happier for you. And your child has a safe place to be where they can, for a minute, forget that they have cancer. But for me, when I arrived there, it was heavy because even though I'm surrounded by everyone else that is in the same journey, for me, it was kind of overwhelming where I was in Miami, I was a rarity. I was an enigma. But I go up to St. Jude, and this is something they see every day. You're surrounded by it. It's almost enveloping you, and there's nowhere to hide. But they have wonderful supports, and they sit and talk kindly with you. They'll even share their journey if they have one with you and 100% support you in whatever that means. If your goal is to reduce the pain that your child is feeling, that's where their focus is while they provide treatment. But what most people don't understand is because St. Jude is so specialized, often the treatments are where you're getting to roll a dice. It's 50% chance that this treatment is going to work for the next 2 years. That's the reality of it. Whereas where you're at home, you're on this conventional treatment that might work 90% of the time in everyone else, but there is a 10% chance that it's going to work on your kid, and it doesn't work. So 10% versus 50%, 2 years. I'm going to go with the 50%. Most people, when I left, they thought, my family thought I was crazy. My friends thought I was crazy. A lot of people were happy for me that understood what St. Jude offered. But then when you're looking at that odd and you're rolling that dice on your child, people don't understand, why are you experimenting on your child? It's not experimenting on your child. That's the hope odds that you have, and you have to make a decision. Again, those life choices that we talked about at the beginning. Are you going to take those chances? If you make the right choices, you can find that survival. And that's what I had to do. Conventional treatment didn't work for my husband or my child. We had to go into the experimental realm. And the experimental realm meant 50% chance that it's going to work for the next 2 years. And if you hop, skip, and jump enough, technology will catch up to you and you'll survive.
All right. So, but because I'm thinking, because just the way my mind thinks,
Mhm.
I'm a researcher. I'm the kind of guy that if you tell me something, like we'll be driving somewhere, I'll hear a song and I'm like, well, let me research the song. And then 2 hours later, I'm still reading about the same song. But
Mhm.
I'm sure there were times when your daughter or your husband were sleeping and you're going through WebMD, you're just scrolling and you're studying and you're studying. So
Mhm.
what is that like? Because a lot of people they have a paralysis by analysis because
Yeah.
they're listening to all the negative people and so what was that like trying to stay positive? Well, I mean, I don't care how good you are. If
Mhm.
somebody says, well, I'm going to go out and start my car today, I got a 50% chance. I'm
Oh.
not feeling I'm not feeling too good about that. So what was
Mm-mm.
that like trying to stay positive while you're reading all this? Because I'm sure you're a researcher, so you knew
Mhm.
all the you started learning all the graphs and the numbers. So what was
Mhm.
that like trying to stay positive when the numbers are still 50-50?
My husband was furious. I will tell you right now, he was furious. He felt that the healthcare system failed him. And I'm like, but we have 50% chance. We still have, I'm looking at it from the glass is half full. He's looking at it from the perspective of the glass is half empty. And so that was extremely hard to find hope in that, because you could make a mistake and get it wrong. And now you're coming home one child less. It's not an ideal place. It will allow you to go crazy. You will go down these rabbit holes, and a lot of these sites are looking at morbidity and mortality rates, meaning how often does somebody die if they're diagnosed with this? Or how often do other conditions come into their disease and cause them to die? So there was nothing out there to look at the positivity of the moment. And so that was something that I said, if I could change that, I would. If I could get through this, if I could change that, that's the first thing I will do, is change these resources from that negativity, because you can get lost in that negativity and then you lose hope. And when you lose hope, you can't make good decisions. And often that's where you find one parent or another that takes their life, or you find the cancer patient that takes their life because they no longer see that light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a possibility of something else. And that goes with every diagnosis, not just with cancer.
All right, so because I'm putting myself in your position.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, okay, because as we talked earlier, I
Mm-hmm.
keep an empty cup on here on my desk for a reason.
Mhm.
It's my cup, it's my vertical momentum cup. It's not the reason why I keep it empty.
Mhm.
But I keep it empty because I realize that if I don't stay full, when I go to take care of my mom, if I'm empty, I can't fill her cup.
Mhm.
I think a lot of caretakers get to the point where their cup is totally empty.
Mhm.
And and then that's when I think a lot of times abuse happens. I think a lot of times that's when people just like, you know what? I don't feel like going to the hospital today. I'm not going.
Mhm.
So talk to us about who Rochelle was, because not only are you trying to take care of your husband that's far away, but you're trying to take care of your daughter. Who is taking care of Rochelle?
So Rochelle was the person who thought she had all the answers in all the sense at the time. And what I realized is I don't have all the answers and I don't have all the sense. But I needed to find it. I needed to look for it and I needed to ask the right questions to find it. There was a humility factor that I had to go through while still saying, this too shall pass. For me, it was Philippines 4:19. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And so I would hang on to the good moments. Okay. The goal was to just get to the front door of St. Jude's. Okay, we did that. Then the goal is to get these MRIs done so that my daughter can survive this. Because by the time she got there, she was in full-blown organ failure. And how do you get through the night so she can make it through the MRIs so that the dyes won't hurt her, all of these things. And so instead of looking at the whole 24 hours, I started living my life in increments of time. I could, to this day, I cannot deal with a full spectrum of 24 hours in a day.
Me,
It would
me
kill me.
too.
It would
Oh,
floor me.
me
I,
too. I live by my scheduler. I
yes,
go hour by hour,
hour
sometimes
by
minute
hour.
by minute.
Minute,
Yeah.
yes, and sometimes it's second by second.
Mhm.
And so when you break it down to that component, you stay in the present. You can't deal with the past. You can't change the past. There's nothing you could do to get that back. You can't deal with the future. Future is unknown. It's not promised to anybody. So nobody has an expiration date. But what you could do is deal with that present, that moment. And I realized that's the gift. That's why they call it a present. The
I say
gift
it all the
is
time.
in that
I say
moment.
it all the time. That is one of my favorite sayings, that
Mhm.
your children or your family requires your presence more
That's right.
than your presence.
That's right. That's right. And so that's what helped me deal with that. I was a walking shell. I was an empty vessel. I had nothing else to give. I could not even pour into myself because there was no reservoir left. And so I ended up finding a bunch of cancer moms that had that are in the journey, that we came together and fashioned a friendship where our resilience, our steadfast determination to get through this journey, not as a entity of one, but as a village together, where we don't understand something that we've read, that we've received, then we can go to another person and that person will pour into us. What I found was that our children were the ones that found our cancer moms and cancer dad friends. They would go to those particular individuals and they knew that if anything happened to them, I can trust this person. And then you're like, well, why is my child eating and having dinner with this individual when they should be sitting with me? And a good parent will go over and say, hi, nice to meet you. My name is so and so. Who are you? And so you quickly understood why your child was picking certain individuals. And then it was, do I, as an adult, want to be around this person? Because my child has chosen this person for some reason, logical, illogical. They're there, they're vested. I need to find out who this person is. And when you look deeper under the hood, under the character of the individual, you realize that's why they're in my life. That's why I chose them. And you come together as a village. I say we are part of a community that nobody wants to be part of. We embark on a journey that no one wants to go under. However, when you arrive there and you stay a little while, you're glad you came because you
All right.
find that.
So, I want to talk about, because this is something that I think has been a game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big gratitude guy.
Mm-hmm.
Before I go to bed at night, I wrap my arms around my wife, even though she doesn't want me to. And I pray for her. I pray for her happiness. I pray for her health. I pray for my dog that's laying next to me. I pray for my kids. But then I say, Lord, I say three things that happened to me that day that I'm grateful for. And I'm sure this episode is going to be one of the things I say, thank you, Lord, for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I wake up in the morning, because I lost 80% of my vision 3 years ago or 5 years ago, if I could see something, I wake up and I say, Lord, thank you. Thank you for waking me up.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you got planned for me today, I accept. And I say out loud, today is going to be an amazing day every day. So I wake up with gratitude and I go to bed with gratitude. So talk to me, because you sound like you have a lot of gratitude. So talk about gratitude, because even when you're in that situation, you don't know if your loved one's going to make it till the next day.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, you know what, Lord, thank you for the moment I have now with them.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about gratitude a little bit.
So there came a point in time where my daughter was in a wheelchair. She had lost her ability to walk. She had lost her ability to see. She had lost her ability to communicate. And she was just existing. And all she could do and all she wanted to do was color. And I would say, how can you stay in the lines? And she's like, I don't even see the color. So I bought her some pens, and it was sparkly pens. And I thought, well, maybe if the sunlight captured the sparkle, she would. What she did was take the feel of the sparkle to determine the color. And so she was using the actual shape of the sparkles that were in the pen and the colors to color her page. And when I looked down at this sparkly page, it was something glorious and beautiful. And from her perspective, she could feel the beauty and I could see the beauty. And so in those moments, I could stay devastated and say, why? You've taken everything, every element of humanity that makes us tick away. Or I could look at that one thing and say, despite all of her infirmities, she's able to find something beautiful. And that's what changed for me. Every morning that she wakes up, every morning that my husband wakes up, and they're able to say, good morning, I love you. That's it. That's the start of my day. I am thankful for just the basics of being able to breathe in and breathe out and say hello, to be present. That's it. To exist. Because the alternative.
So talk to us the moment, because you arrived at St. Jude's one way, and the day when those doors opened, and you and your daughter walked out of there,
Oh
you're not
man.
the same you're not the same
No,
person that walked in.
no, because they
So
told us.
I want you to take us back. I want you to take us back to that morning when you know you're going to be released. What was that like?
They had told us that after being taken off the drugs and all of the treatments and her surviving organ failure and getting through that whatever they had given her was working. And so this is like 2 or 3 months later. and we had to go home. And they're like, today is Thursday. You're going to leave tomorrow, Friday morning. And on Monday morning, you have to start back on this treatment. Now, I'm states away, and I know that I'm traveling with 3 children, and one of them is terminally ill. And I got to get back to Miami. I've got to find a way to drive day and night, but still make sure that it's in a safe manner. It took me 3 days to get home. 3 days that I'm on pins and needles. Can I get her there to treatment? When I got into Florida, I stopped at Phantom Fireworks and filled the front seat with every firework bundle display that I could think of. I think I spent $650. Like, I dropped some money. And I said, it's the 4th of July, and I am going to put off as many kabooms as I can fit into this Ford Edge car. And we are going to go home, and I'm going to set every single one of them ablaze in my cul-de-sac, because we went home. We are going home. And that's what I did. I watched my 4-year-old run up and down the street because the noise was so loud she couldn't run away from it. And she had never seen fireworks. Never
Now,
seen
was
it.
your husband home, or is he still in treatment?
He was home, and he had decided that he was not going to do treatment until I came back. So he was diagnosed in May. We didn't come back until months later. We're in July. And when he told us in May, it was already about to spread everywhere. And he sat with that instead of taking care of himself, because he didn't want anybody else to take care of him but me. And I said to him, what if I never came back? What if I wasn't able to come back? And he's like, I will wait. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. So
Okay. Now you got me all
yeah,
twisted here.
yeah.
So it's in May when he gets diagnosed for the second time.
Well, no, he actually knew in January. He didn't tell me till
But
May.
why did he not go to St. Jude's with you if he wasn't getting treatment?
So I call him Father Christmas because he works for the post office. He drives the trucks up, 18-wheelers up and down the highway. And you can't take a day off. The mail must run, rain or shine, snow or sleet. You have 1 day off. He could not leave. He could not leave. There are people out there that are under work conditions that no matter what is going on with their health, their job requirements means that they literally cannot take care of their own health properly. And so in his mind, being that provider, it was more important to him to provide money so that his wife and his children could maintain themselves out of state wherever we were, so that her cancer treatment could be taken care of. I gave up my job, so I no longer had insurance. At that time, we had pre-existing conditions, so he needed to work. I could not.
Okay, so then I'm sure there came a time after the 4th of July
Oh yeah.
where you and your husband you're sitting at the kitchen table and you're like, all right, Sparky, it's time to get this stuff taken care of, or else you're not going to be here. So
Yeah.
talk about that conversation, because I'm
So
sure that didn't go over too well.
no, I didn't even have a conversation with him about it. I literally called his doctor's office. He had told me that they were probably going to do a surgery or something in August. And I called up that doctor's office and I'm like, well, this patient has been diagnosed since January. He was supposed to have something in May. We're now in July. How much longer are you going to wait before it spreads everywhere? And so I was able to get his surgery the following week, literally the following week. So she went to chemotherapy in the morning. That evening, I left her with her brother and sister, and I took him to the hospital and stayed with him all night until he came out of surgery and until he could go home.
So, because a lot of people would say, he survived it once, and now, the second time surgery,
Hmm.
um, and your daughter's dealing with this.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, you become, anytime you go out to dinner or you go to the family's house, you're the cancer girl. You,
That's right.
if there's ever a question,
Yep.
oh, just go to Rochelle. She
Just go.
knows. You
Right.
became like you became like
Hmm.
cancer woman. You know what I
That's
mean?
correct. That's
So
correct.
what was that like? Is now all of a sudden you went from being the student
Hmm.
to now you're actually becoming the teacher.
The
So
expert.
what was that
Yeah.
like?
Um, sometimes when just getting out of the house to just being around the family, you just want to do that to just be around the family. And so it was understanding your role and your place and saying, okay, everyone's going to have a lot of questions. There's a lot of catching up you need to do in order to bring everyone up to where you are. I am not the expert, but what I could do is refer them to where they need to go. And so that's what I started to do. That became cathartic for me. That yes, I am now the expert, and everybody is going to be coming to me asking me for questions. But what's the best way that I could handle this without taking it on to the point that it's stressful and I can't manage this person and that person and that person and this person that I never imagined are now diagnosed with cancer? Refer them to the pipeline that you've developed, who you know where the specialists are, and let them handle it. Mhm.
But I'm sure because like I'm known as the addiction guy now because
Mhm.
I got all these years in the podcast and all that. And there's some people in my family, I'm not going to mention any names. I call them ask holes because they ask me questions and then they don't do
Do
anything
it.
about it.
No.
So and then and then sometimes now I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm not even going to waste my breath talking about it because you're not
Mhm.
going to listen to me anyway. You're not
Mhm.
going to do what I ask, what I advise. So, what is that like? Because there's certain people that, and I'm one of them that I personally believe that a lot of um, the cancer is a business
Mhm.
in this United States,
Yes, it is.
and if they found a cure, there'd be chaos and havoc. And I believe that, and this is my own opinion. I'm only a ninth grade dropout, so I'm not a professional. But if you can put somebody on the moon, you can't tell me that you can't find something to help with a cell. That's my personal opinion. That I think that, and I'm not a big conspiracy theory, but I think what I'm saying is I think we should be putting more money into experimental treatments, to research, than we are worried about somebody going to Uranus. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think that's more that's this is a little bit more important than SpaceX. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. So let me navigate over a bridge over what you just said. So I am all about science and data and predictable analysis and looking at outcomes and overall survivorship. So let me just say that right there. I think that as cancer has and cancer treatment has evolved, it had to change in the framework of the mindset that we actually can do something. Back 20, 30 years ago, if somebody was terminal, you didn't want to add insult to injury. You didn't want to make the situation worse. And a lot of the so-called treatments were worse than the disease itself. And so because it was considered a rarity and there weren't a lot of remedies to help, there wasn't a lot of money to throw at it to say we can do things better. Over time, we started looking at T cells and immunity. And I specifically remember the researcher and how they were literally laughing him off the stage because there was a failure to believe in the impossible, that the
Mm-hmm.
possible could happen. And so just as when you see in earlier television shows where you have that big brick phone that is the size of half a house and they're walking down the street, now it can fit into your back pocket, that cell phone. So it's in allowing the general population to be able to come up into believing the impossible is possible. And that takes time, that takes generation, but it also takes research, it takes money. But finally, if people don't know that these treatments are out there, then you can't tell them the cures are here. Think about it. The last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, they have not developed new drugs. All they're doing is taking different components of different drugs that they currently have, an immunosuppressant, a targeted DNA, and they'll put it with chemotherapy and then add in radiation, and that's the package now. They're not developing anything necessarily new. They're just combining it differently because they know that instead of it targeting all of the cancer, we can target each individual piece and component. And if we do it all together, we can unlock the cure. And so this is how that evolution has come to today. It takes knowledge, it takes science. But again, it takes awareness. You got to know that these things are out there, which is why I said the best way in my time is to change it from a mortality and morbidity focus to overall survivorship focus. And how do you do overall survivorship focus? You tell people what's available. How do I best do that? I can't sit there and do it one by one. You make a library. You tell them this is what it is and remove the silos so it's all together in one place. It's a whole paradigm shift and it's going to take time. It's not necessarily the treatment or the remedy. It's us. It's us understanding the impossible is here. Recently, in the past 3 months, they came up with the treatment for Alzheimer's. You were talking about Alzheimer's this morning and this memory drug, and it actually works. But it took almost 20 years to get to the place now where we can give it to the general public, for the general public to be ready to receive this drug. It's the ability to believe in the impossible is possible.
And and now you got me thinking. And like once again, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Um, when I was growing up, I grew up a Los Angeles Lakers fan. I'm a Lakers
Mhm.
fan to this day, except
Mhm.
for LeBron. I don't like you, LeBron. So whenever you leave,
I love
I'll start
LeBron.
I'll start following the Lakers again. But the day that Magic Johnson confirmed that he had HIV, the world stopped. I
Yes.
mean, back then,
Mhm.
people were dying left and right. And
Yes.
now, I mean, it's still around, but now you see the commercials where it's like, if your HIV is so undetectable, you could just take this one pill.
Yes.
But back then, it was like, I mean, they had the World AIDS Day, they had all that. You don't see much of it anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's something like you're talking about, that it takes time to get into the system and to get the research and the money to be able to. Now you just take one little pill or two pills, and you're going to be
Mhm.
okay. Your immune system's going to be okay. Is that what you're talking
Exactly.
about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And what they've done is repackaged certain drugs that were there already in existence, but combined them differently and put them together. And so now instead of you taking handfuls of pills, you're just taking one or two, and it actually is working. Um, that takes time, that takes study, that takes research, that takes investment, but it also takes a paradigm shift in the public to understand the impossible of living with AIDS is possible because we now can lower these markers to such a point that it never actually turns into AIDS. You remain in your HIV positivity status or undetectable.
All right. So
You detect
for,
earlier.
for the last couple of minutes, I
Mhm,
think America is the greatest country in the world.
mhm,
I served for 23 years, and my dad came off the boat from Italy where they have socialized medicine.
Mhm.
His sisters, I think they live in Switzerland, and I'm not sure about Canada, so I'm going to let you speak
It's
on it.
socialized medicine there.
So, what is it like? Because how good we have it, and a lot of people don't realize that even in Italy, where my dad came from, if you get cancer, you might not make it to get to the doctor's appointment. So, talk to us about how great America is and how socialized medicine in other countries are so far behind where we're at.
Most of the research historically in advancement in drugs and treatments and therapeutics are done here in America. Um, in the socialized medicine way, we look at a person's quality of life and comorbidities. And again, we don't want to do harm. So they will wait until we in America have gone through all of those, take enough of the drug before it kills you, to taking a little bit of, less of the amount of drug before it kills you, finding out what those top thresholds and the bottom thresholds are, and then going forward and putting those treatment markers together. Then they will start using those drugs because they look at the overall quality of life. It's a different framework, but they also look at preventative care, which is a model that is not here in the United States.
Mhm. Yep.
We're looking at disease and disease management versus preventative care. So when you in these other socialized countries now find yourself with cancer because you've lived such a healthier life, you may not take stock, you may not notice it as prevalent as being such a problem. So when you finally do see it, um, you may have missed it. I think COVID has taught us a lot. We pivoted and focused on helping everyone through COVID when there was no treatment, there was no drug, and it was so devastating. It shut the world down. But when it shut the world down, we stopped treating everything else. And so
Yeah.
all of these other diseases became worse and advanced. So maternal health deaths increased. Cancer is going to spike. We have the data pre-COVID, which is 2019, and then we have the treatment post-COVID. And so when we look at this now, we're going to see as that outlier. Here's COVID. It's going to cause everything to go higher. And so we want to take that as a grain of thought and learning that we should be able to do both things at the same time. If another pandemic hits, we cannot forget that current existing treatments and diagnoses need to be taken care of. Because if you forget about them, if you forget about the rest of the world, everything else gets worse. And so skilled, you need skilled people to be able to look at things more broadly. But look how far we came. In 3 years, we were able to find a treatment, and now we're back to living our lives. So again, looking at making the impossible possible quicker, but it's standing on the shoulders of previous technology, previous scientific advancements, previous understandings that make us go forward. And so we don't want to forget that treatment still needs to happen for everything else.
Okay, so now the last thing I want to talk about is because I just released a podcast course yesterday, and
Mhm,
it teaches you everything from the nuts to the bolts of how
mhm.
to start a podcast, how to monetize it, how to get power and purpose. So, because I'm a low tech redneck, I like I like a place where I could just click on. It has a
Mhm,
library of stuff that I need. I
mhm.
don't have to search Google, Chat GPT. It's all in one space.
Yes.
So talk to us about what you got going on because I think that's incredible where you could just go into your library,
Mhm.
search whatever, and click, and you're going to get the information that somebody's already did the work for you already. So
Correct.
talk about that.
Correct. Um, what I found in the public health spaces is that when you would go and do a search, you get a link to something else, to a link to
Mhm.
something else, and then you'd have to go down this whole rabbit hole and then claw your way back out to go look down another rabbit hole again. And then it wasn't actually giving you something to do, a takeaway. Go see this specific doctor, or go to this specific hospital. Each hospital has its own complement of specialty. So it could be heart and kidney, or it could be liver and GI, or it could be brain and lung. They tell you very specifically on their website what they specialize in. Most people don't read that. So when danger comes, or when you are in need of help, you go to the closest place. But the closest place might not be the best place for you. It's the best hospital because it's closest, but it's not the best for you in terms of what you're dealing with. And so I needed to compile that in one place so people understand, okay, the hospital down the street is a community hospital. That is different from a cancer treatment center. And at a cancer treatment center, you're going to have to travel to there because you may not live next door to one. And there's a whole referral process. What do you need to do to get in there? In a in a heart hospital, or hospital for surgical services, you can walk in off the street. I have a broken arm. They'll take care of you. You can't do that at a cancer treatment hospital. You must be referred by your primary care doctor to the oncologist, and then you can go in. So there's a whole process that puts barriers and health inequity there right from the start. And so people don't know this. I created this cancer treatment library to be the easy button and the Google, as in, this is where you need to go, this is who you need to see, and this is a list of all your treatment options. If you are needle averse, you don't like needles, okay, you can take a pill. You can take
That would be me,
radiation,
'cause
right?
I'm afraid of needles, so that would be me.
Exactly. If you can't swallow pills, you have difficulty swallowing pills. Okay, well, now there's a shot. There, you can go do radiation, or you can drink something. There's a different way. There's a better way. There's other options that are available to you that will still give you the same benefit. Before, in the Bible, if it hurts you, you cut it off, you cut it out. When it comes to cancer, on some of them, if you cut it, you spread it everywhere. So cutting it out or cutting it off is not the best options. But if that's all that your center knows to do, then you're at the devices of what that skilled labor is able to do. And that can do more harm than good. And so the cancer treatment library gives you that knowledge to say, this is the best way to go. But most importantly, it points you to that provider and healthcare network system that you need to be within to help you navigate going forward. It's not going alone, it's going with a village. And that's what I do differently.
So then how do our listeners, how do they find this cancer library?
I have a website. It's my business name, www.orchidhealthcaresolutions.com. And the cancer treatment library is there. You can sign up for it. You have a consultation with me. I walk you through it so that you understand it. And when you're done, you have a list. You will leave 15 minutes. You will have a list and 3 takeaways. Why is it only 3? The brain can handle what the butt can endure. And so if you give it in 3s, you can manage that. And then you come back and I help you on the next step. We remove financial toxicity, we remove the isolation, and we help to promote longevity for you to stay in treatment long term.
And now I promised our listeners that at the end of this, we were going to give them 3 things that they can take away from this today.
Yes.
So being a caregiver, being a mom, being a husband, what are the top 3 things that a caregiver can do to help their own mental health?
If you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of somebody else. That is key. So if it means taking a moment, standing in the shower, taking a bath, going and getting a massage, taking that moment to step away when you can, even if it's just sitting down in the car and sitting still. Do that because you need to have yourself before you can help anybody else. If you run yourself into the dirt, you can't help anybody else. You have nothing left in the tank. The cup is empty. You have nothing to pour into. So that's number one. Pour into yourself. Find something that you love to do and do that. Number two, find those moments of joy that you can share with that loved one because it's hard. And that person is irrevocably changed. Who you entered into cancer is not the way you finish. So that's number two. Where you start is not where you finish. Ask for help all the way through. Because your finances today are not your finances tomorrow. Your health today is not your health tomorrow. Your health today is not your health tomorrow. So that's number two. Ask for help. Ask for help often, repeatedly, all the way through. And number three, find those moments that you can do things together, whether it's sitting down and coloring a picture, whether it's sitting down in the backyard and breathing in the air, whether it's just taking a walk around the cul-de-sac, if you can, or push your loved one around the cul-de-sac, if you can. Find something that the two of you can do together that brings unity in a way that they can entertain. Even if it's just sitting and listening to music, you want to bring yourselves together moment by moment. I'm not saying the whole day, just moment by moment.
And there was a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yes.
And they talk about living, one moment at a time.
Yes.
And I tell everybody, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow doesn't exist.
Yep.
All I can touch is today and right now. So I love what you're saying. But guys, I normally have my other t-shirt on. I don't have it on today. The t-shirt says, "Today I decide."
Yes.
Because I'm a big Joel Osteen guy, and he says we can choose to be the victim or the victor.
Exactly.
And if you guys are watching this show, you guys are a victor, and you are no longer a victim of your past. So, Rochelle, I just want to say thank you so much. Laura, thank you so much for hooking us up. So, guys, make sure you check out the website because cancer is running rampant. And if you can get information in one click, I'm all about the one click. Being a low-tech redneck, I'm all about one click. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for sharing your story about your husband and your children. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for the listeners to take the time to listening. I hope I was able to give you just one nugget that will help transform your journey.
I love it, guys. Now, whenever you see the St. Jude commercial, it's going to be more real life like because you know the behind the story. So, guys, remember vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. You're going to see my ugly face 5 more times today. So get ready, have your coffee. It's going to be a long day. Rochelle, have an amazing week.
You too. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
You too.